Hello everyone, TimeToGrind here, and today I wanted to talk about good old toxic teammates. And everyone, if you guys have played a online multiplayer game, you have 100% without a doubt dealt with a toxic teammate at some point. Whether, you just immediately muted them, or, you kind of just took it, or possibly you even fell for the bait and started, being kind of toxic back to them. I feel like everyone has experienced a terrible person when playing games. And overall, I can get annoyed and I get angry at a lot of things, but when playing online multiplayer games, being toxic does nothing. So even if you get really mad, or say like you're playing MOBA, and you are trying to win, you're trying to grind out some good old MMR, you're trying to, make it to platinum, or whatever your game's equivalent of, the highest tier is, and you get matched with a teammate that just insta-picks something and just starts feeding. Of course you're gonna get really, really, really mad. But the problem is, what I feel like a lot of people don't understand is that becoming toxic to them, or getting mad at them, or being like, oh dude, stop feeding, you're so bad at the game, kind of venting your frustrations out to them doesn't help anything. Because if they are, if they're feeding intentionally, first of all, you ranting at them is you're giving them the reaction that they wanted, because they're doing it to try to be funny, or to troll, or just to ruin your guys' day. So you acknowledging the fact that they are in fact ruining your game and getting mad at them is just giving them exactly what they want. And if they're truly trying their hardest, and they're just doing terribly, and I'm sure a lot of us, myself included, have dealt with that as well. Some games it's not your game and you're doing terribly, and you feel so bad because you're being a detriment to your team, and it feels awful. And so if that's the type of person that someone is, and they're just having a bad game, or they're kind of new to the game, you getting extremely angry and insulting them and doing all this stuff isn't going to help, because they're just going to feel more sad, and they're going to get more stressed out, because say in Rainbow Six Siege, someone's not doing that hot, they're getting stressed out because they know they're not doing the best. If someone starts just kind of raging at them, they're gonna get more stressed out, because they're like, oh god, I need to do better, and stuff like that can happen. And it doesn't help anyone, especially, in longer games like MOBAs, because, Rainbow Six Siege and CSGO, the games can last a little bit, but they're round-based. So, everything kind of resets constantly. So, once you suck, you're like, okay, this round, I got it. But whereas in MOBAs, it's a continuous thing. So, you start sucking, it makes it easier to do worse and worse and worse, and you just go into this spiral. And if you're constantly, for an hour game, getting insulted and stuff like that, it just feels terrible. And so I just want to kind of point that out first before talking how to deal with people that kind of rage and everything, or just be extremely toxic, because I want everyone to know, when I'm playing multiplayer games, most of the time I have, say, one or two other people in Discord with me, and we're all playing in a lobby, but then we have to have, 2 or 3 randoms, say. So if I want to rage at, if I'm getting so annoyed to the point where I want to rage at someone, I'll just complain about that teammate to my friends in Discord where they can't hear. I'm not saying you can't complain at all, because, sometimes you gotta complain, especially when you get some not so great teammates. But they don't need to hear it, because no matter what, you being mean to someone else in that isn't going to help anyone. Because if they're just trolling and they're just trying to make you mad, you're letting them know that you've made them mad. And if they're truly trying their hardest, they're going to perform worse, because they're even more stressed out. So just, either keep it to yourself, or just complain to your friends and your, stuff like that, rather than letting them know. And the other type of toxicity isn't just people throwing or performing poorly. I mean, performing poorly is not being toxic, but especially people that are just throwing and stuff. But for people that, I've gone in games where, the match starts. I'm like, hey everyone, you guys have mics or whatever in a game of Rainbow Six Siege, or, Dota 2 or anything like that. And it sounds good, it sounds okay. And then, the round's starting to get closer or something, and you just hear someone go off on someone, randomly. They just, start throwing insults. And for me, I'm personally always just oh, okay, thanks for your feedback. I try to kind of deflect it all to the point where they know that they're not, affecting me, because overall I'm not affected by that kind of stuff. Occasionally if I'm performing terribly and people start kind of being mean. Sometimes I can be like, yeah, I know I'm sucking, like, you know, but chill. But you want to just not, like, I mean, you can respond sometimes. I mean, not responding in general is pretty okay. But the problem is when you're playing with randoms as well, what ends up happening all the time is, say it's even directed towards me, whatever they're raging at. Normally it's not. Normally it's at another teammate that's performing poorly or something. Everyone else is going to interact with them. He's going to insult them, they're going to insult him back, and then it just escalates from there. And it's like, we're all on the same team. Like, you know, if you guys want to add each other in rage after the match, you know, sure, go ahead. But right now, we're trying to focus on winning. We're all playing ranked, we all want to win. So if it's ever focused to me or anything like that, I always just try to either, you know, kind of gauge it, being like, okay, should I actually respond to this, or should I, you know, just not respond? And if I do respond, it's more of like, say someone's like, oh, dude, you know, that was so bad, you know, why don't you just kill yourself or something like that? Be like, nah, man, I don't really feel like it today. Thank you, though. You know, and just kind of stuff like that. And that can be, sometimes that's why you kind of have to gauge kind of where the situation's at, because sometimes that can end up making someone be extremely more angry. Like, they know they can't get to you, so they just keep trying and trying to escalate things to hopefully get a response out of you, or a reaction. And also, obviously, if it all fails, just mute them. You know, I've had games where sometimes I just have to do that. I'm just like, hey guys, hey teammates, let's mute them. But problem is a lot of the times, especially if you're saying that, they tend to get very angry that there's no one they can kind of harass, and they'll like start doing they'll start feeding or team killing or something like that. So most of the time, if you're gonna mute them, don't really say you're muting them. That tends to be the best thing. And also for games where they're just like feeding and, you know, they're just team killing, if you're playing like CSGO or Rainbow Six, or, you know, a game that you can do that, if they're, you know, team killing or anything like that, most games like that have kind of a report system and stuff like that. You gotta just understand that sometimes there's not a solution. You know, you can mute them, but you can't really stop them from kind of feeding or stuff like that. Obviously you can report them, but that won't help you in the game that you're in. And one thing I feel like once I learned made that kind of situation a lot more bearable was that happens to the other team too. You know, theoretically it should be happening just as much to the enemy team as you, because if you have 4 teammates, say you're just solo queuing, and this is kind of how matchmaking works in general. If it's a 5-player game, if it's a 5v5 and you're solo queuing, theoretically, you're only getting 4 random people that have the potential to be stupid people or griefers, because you're one of them. And obviously, hopefully, you're not a toxic person or a griefer. Whereas the enemy team, they have 5 random people that have a potential to be griefers or stupid people. So theoretically, every game, it's a lower chance for your team to be the one with a griefer or something like that, because you're on it. And if everyone's random, the chances of that happening is lower. And that's kind of how matchmaking works as well. Like, if you think that you should be rising in the ranks, theoretically, you should be winning more matches if you think you deserve to be in a rank higher. But overall, it always, even like when the enemy team just starts team killing everyone, or there's some guy, I still feel bad, because it's like, I'm playing the game because I want close matches. Like, yes, my overall goal is to increase my rank, because that's a really cool thing to work towards, but I just want to have fun. I want to play the game and have fun, close matches. I personally don't like it if I'm stomping, and I don't like it if I'm being stomped. I like it to be a close game, and when people start team killing, that gets really annoying, because it's like, this isn't a close game anymore. But you have to realize that as many times as that happens to you, it's happening to enemy teams. And I feel like overall people don't notice it as much, because when it's not on your team, when you can't personally hear them being toxic, or you can't really interact with them, and you being the one that's getting shot at, you don't really acknowledge that it's happening. Like in Rainbow Six Siege, when the enemy team, someone team kills on the enemy team, everyone on my teams, I was like, oh, okay, cool. But when it happened, you know, you're just kind of like, oh, you know, it happened. And sometimes you're happy about it. Sometimes I'm generally never happy about it, because I want a close game. But when it happens to you, it's like the worst thing ever. Like, it's the worst feeling ever. And so, you know, especially if someone's doing team killing or stuff like that, or griefing, or, you know, feeding or whatever, you just have to realize that there's not really anything you can fully do in that match. You can just report and just kind of understand that it'll happen to the enemy team as well. You know, it should happen theoretically more often on the enemy team. So, you know, it's not like you're always being negatively affected by that. And obviously, it feels like that's not the case at all, but you know, that's just overall what's gonna happen. So you just gotta, if someone's, you know, just being a terrible human being on the mic, obviously one option is to just mute them. Another option is to kind of just give short, quick answers that they don't, so they know that they're not really they're not getting a reaction out of you, because especially a lot of games, team communication's key, and a lot of these people will, you know, give callouts every now and then. It'll just be in the middle of a bunch of random tangents and insults, so sometimes you kind of want to still keep them, but the goal is to overall try to make them not be toxic, whereas like while they're still talking and giving callouts. But if that doesn't work, if that doesn't happen, just mute them and just live your life without dealing with it. You know, like, you don't need to deal with it if you don't need to deal with it, because overall, even though you might miss a couple callouts, you're just going to be in a better place, just in general. And overall, I'd say like most competitive multiplayer games nowadays have a pretty good report system, and, you know, obviously I haven't played all of them, but the games I have played have had pretty decent report systems and stuff like that. But overall, I just wanted to kind of talk about toxic players and how to deal with them a little bit, just because recently I feel like I've gotten a lot of games with toxic people, and I tend to know how to deal with them. For the most part, they don't really get under my skin, but all of my teammates constantly just get pulled in and they get baited, and then they start cursing and screaming at them, and it's like, guys, just can we just plant the bomb, or can we just play the game? And it doesn't always work out. But overall, I just wanted to kind of give some tips, I guess, that most people should know, but if you don't know, they're pretty useful tips, even though they're pretty simple. You know, a lot of people know that you can mute someone, but a lot of people don't for whatever reason. So just know it's an option. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. If you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more content like this. Every video, every Wednesday and Sunday, there is a video like these, which are pretty swell. So if you subscribe, you can get notifications for all that goodness. And also, I am streaming most days around 7:30 Central Time on twitch.tv/TimeToGrind gaming. So definitely check me out there. But like always, guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and see you guys next time.